All right. We have folks joining us. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We're just waiting for people to roll in. Let's give everyone a minute or so. And in the meantime, we thought we'll make this as meta as possible. So, if you can all take a second and type in the Zoom chat as to if money was not an object, you did not have to do babysitting, you did not have to do dog sitting, you did not have a job to go to, where in the world would you rather be right now rather than in this meeting to discuss meetings, right? So just put it in the chat. You needn't have a visa for the place either. You needn't know if they need yellow fever vaccinations. You just would love to be there because you've heard amazing things. Yeah. We just want to see which hemisphere people. We got a lot of southern hemisphere. That's interesting. We got a lot of people joining. I know from the northern hemisphere. Got Southeast Asia. Australia is feeling a little left out and lonely.
No one
So
wants
is
to go to Australia? Like, I'm going to put that in.
we don't have Russia and China either. If you want to put that into. So many beautiful places. Oh gosh, it's such a beautiful world. And Neela, since you got control there, if you want to pan and zoom and fly around and give vent to all your pilot fantasies, just move around the thing. You could just click on the top left also and click on the world thing and look at different continents in the drop down.
Got the top.
Yeah, you got to move the zoom thing behind. So this is
I
also
know,
a
I
torture
know.
test for you.
I know. I can't do that. Sorry. God, this is fun. Okay. Okay, come on, folks. No one wants to go to Greenland. It's so evocatively
Thank,
labeled.
oh yeah, and thank you, Zach. Antarctica needs to be added to that map, and Zach is absolutely right. We don't have Antarctica, and that's something that we should correct by the next session. Hey, but thank you so much for joining us, folks. I'm Lux Narayan. I'm a co-founder here at Streamer Live, and we love hosting these sessions, given the variety of people who are kind enough to join us for these talks, and today is no exception to that. We're going to be using Streamer Live quite liberally through the entire session. It's going to be a different meeting if you haven't been to one of our meetings before. If you've been for one of our meetings before, it is still going to be a very different meeting, and I can promise you that, knowing our guest for today. Our speaker today is a dear friend. She's a classmate from B School at IIM Calcutta. In fact, my co-founders Tina, Joe, and I know her for okay. Let's just not say how long. Let's just say since the 90s. Yeah. She's a behavioral scientist who like flittingly jumps very easily between the worlds of academia and corporates, like the actors in that movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, like literally verse jumping across those worlds. She's an executive director of the Yale Research Initiative on Innovation and Scale. It's called Why Rise, if that's a mouthful. And she's a co-founder at a company called When Advisors that does a lot of stuff in the behavioral sciences. She's on the board of the Life You Can Save. And she's worked with Ashoka University, the Gates Foundation, and been part of the consumer research teams at Nestle, Unilever, PepsiCo, and Accenture. It's almost like the logo board that I wish we had for our product. Yeah, and we have some of those. That's the good news. She does not want me to tell you this, and she swore me into not saying it, but I'm going to say it because what are friends for? That Forbes mentions her among the 10 behavior scientists that you should know, and now you know her and will know her even better very soon. She can play a mean tune at the piano. Consider yourselves lucky if you're in a party where Neela is performing. I'm thrilled to introduce you to our dear friend Neela Saldanha.
Thank you, Lux. Can you hear me well enough?
Very well.
Okay, so I have to say, in the theme of meta meetings to discuss meetings, I actually literally told Lux not to say the Forbes article and the piano stuff. And now it makes me sound even worse because it sounds like I'm humble bragging. So I'm all confused right now about whether I should have told him to say it or not say it. Anyway, we're going to start with um, talking about effective meetings. And so so over the course of the next maybe 45, 50 minutes, 55 minutes, I'm going to talk about how to have an effective meeting, right? Which is go through some of these points. You know, we need to have a purpose, design an agenda, inviting the right people, using ground rules, having a parking lot, and recap and follow up. So we run through each of those in some level of detail on the meetings. We might even have time to give you some tips on how to have a healthy life, which is that you need to eat 5 to 8 servings of fruit and vegetables, exercise an hour each day, of course, sleep 8 hours, don't drink alcohol, stop smoking, avoid sugar, processed foods, and whatever was in the headlines today, and of course, never attend meetings. Great list, right? Nothing wrong with this list. I love this list. I love this list as well, except, except we're never going to do any of this stuff. Let's be real. We desperately try and make ourselves design the right kind of meeting, working against human nature instead of working with human nature, and then designing meetings for us. So all this is great if you can do it. Personally, I consider myself lucky if I've done or two of these things in a meeting. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I mean, some of it will incorporate some of that, but going into, first of all, why does a meeting never happen the way we actually plan to and intend to, and say we're going to attend meetings and do the 100-page pre-read, make comments, and be well prepared for that meeting? It's exactly the same reason why we commit to writing the great novel, and then 7 years later, we haven't written more than in the title slide of that novel, right? And it really comes down to the fact that as humans, we are basically two selves. Okay, we have a system one, and the metaphor I love is what Chip and Dan Heath talk about, which is the elephant and the rider. We are both the elephant and the rider. So we think we're the rider, analytical, and we think about things and we intend to do something, but we're also the elephant. Okay, we are always on, we're assessing signals all the time, it's intuitive. And the thing to understand about the elephant part of our brain or our thinking or our self, it's very confident, okay? And it just keeps going. We would not function if we didn't have the self, because we would just be paralyzed thinking about what to do next. And the thing to imagine about the rider, which is what we think our brain is all about, is that it's a little lazy. In order to conserve energy, most of the time we let our elephant selves take over things, although we say to ourselves, oh, it's my rider self. It's not really. We're letting our elephant selves do stuff, and the rider self is really going along with it. Elephant self is not necessarily, as some people would say, only about the unconscious. It's about also our habits. We don't think, at least I hope no one really thinks about brushing their teeth in the morning. This is why we can, cross the street and still have a conversation. It's also about emotions. It's also about associations. This is the part of our brain that will stereotype very easily. And we like to think of ourselves this way, right? The charging elephant and the rider going in the same direction. What unfortunately does tend to happen, why did this? Okay. Most of the time, we are battling the 6-ton elephant and the rider, and they're not always on the same page. Our rider self says we should attend meetings, we should do the pre-read, we should be productive, we should get everyone to participate. The elephant self says, nah, it's a nice day outside today. I don't know what I did, signing up for this meeting talking about meetings at 11 a.m. I could be sitting in a park. And anytime the 6-ton elephant and rider disagree about which direction to go, the rider is going to lose. So we've already lost it if we think we're going to design meetings that are really, all about our rider self, and we're going to do the things that we intended to do, okay? But don't take my word for it. For those of you, I see lots of old friends here, so I'm sure some of you are familiar with this, but don't spoil the fun. Actually, you can't spoil the fun with this task, even if you've done it before. So I'm going to ask everyone to unmute. Okay, there's going to be a little bit of chaos, but it's okay. I'm going to ask everyone to unmute right now. And your first task is, as I flash these words across the screen, hopefully my mouse will cooperate or my fingers will cooperate. You're going to say the words out aloud. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Sorry.
Blue, yellow, white,
Blue, yellow,
white,
white,
green,
red,
red,
black,
black,
purple.
purple.
A second task, which is to say the color of the words out aloud. Okay, and again, I hope that this will allow me to do it, but if everybody's ready to go, get off mute. And
Neela, quick tip, if you want, you can just use your keyboard right arrow if that's easier for you.
I'm
by
going
the
to
way.
try and see whether that works. Okay.
Red.
orange, blue,
Blue,
Purple.
black,
Red,
green,
wine,
black,
blue,
red.
orange.
So again, one, if this was super easy, I heard a lot of one, if this was super easy, I didn't hear that in the first one. Four, if it was difficult. Okay, so four, if it was difficult. I see a lot of folks in the, yeah. One, if it was super easy, like I got this immediately, I can read the colors. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Moderately difficult, but yeah, I heard a lot of the in the this was somehow easier, Shweta. Maybe, some people have synesthesia. They see colors of things, or they hear when they see words. So maybe it's true. But in general, I see more on the right-hand side of things, right? Which is that it's slightly more difficult than the other task. And I'm just trying to check and see, like, what was going through your mind. Let's do a little bit of a thing. What was going through your mind as, let's do some transient thoughts, okay? What was going through your mind in task 2 when you were trying to sort of read and I was telling you focus on the color, not on the word itself? Any thoughts?
You can just click on the go if you don't mind, Neela. And Zach, if you don't mind typing your answer again, please.
Okay, so what was going through your mind? Just like double check yourself. Yep. So your elephant self is saying, which is what we are trained to do, your gut reaction, your elephant self, you're trained to see words and ignore the color in which they're printed. This is why we can read posters and billboards. And your rider self is, no, I have to do this. This is my habit, right? I have to do it. Fight. It's a literal fight between two parts of your brain. It also makes you very tired if you have to do this. If I give you 100 words like this, it's going to make you much more tired than actually reading the word. Thinking twice. Had to think twice and very quickly. You're under time pressure to do that. So that's exactly the sort of thing that's happening in your brain. There's much more of a fight, and I could hear it in the you really want to get the answer, but things are moving too quickly, etc. And that's exactly the sort of problems we have with meetings. We should be designing a good agenda. We should be doing that. That's our rider self. And then the elephant self is, I really don't want to do that. And that's where we're getting into a little bit of an issue around meetings. And the elephant self is really confident. You saw how hard it is to override this. I've done this with CEOs. I've done this with people who have had every sort, who think I'm not going to fall for this. And it always, this has nothing to do with how educated you are, how smart you, how much attention you pay. It's just that we have these two steps. Okay. So now getting to the next, so therefore, what can we actually do about this, right? So the first thing that we can do, and in the theme of where in the world would you rather be today, if we think about, what we can do is how do we make it easy? If there's one tip I want you to go away with about what behavioral scientists think, and the behavioral scientists in this room, and I can see a couple from my life, is that you focus on reducing friction, making things really, really, really easy, okay? So think about lying in that hammock on a beach, about how easy it is. That's the kind of feeling you want to get for every aspect of the meeting that you actually run. Okay, so here's a really interesting way to make things easy. Todd Rogers has an excellent book, Writing for Busy Readers. And he worked in political campaigning. One of the hardest things is getting people's attention. So here's what happened. This is an email I got recently. Okay, this is not even the full email. I lost track after the second screen. Blah, 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 please, and ultimately they just want me to contribute this $1, whatever. So you get a lot of these fundraising emails. And what they actually did was that they deleted every alternate paragraph. Okay, literally. They went to the fundraising committee. It wasn't Biden's fundraising committee, it was another one. And they said, we're just going to delete every alternate paragraph. And the predictable response, if you have an agenda and someone says, we're just going to delete every alternate paragraph, is to say, well, it's not going to be coherent anymore, right? There's a reason I actually wrote this out. And when they showed it to people, it wasn't as coherent. So people are not stupid. We are not stupid. Obviously, this isn't as coherent as, the previous one, but 16% more people, they got 16% more donations. So the question is, and Todd has this great example, we're often taught to write, that we should write well. Actually, we should write effectively. We often think we should have a good meeting. Actually, we should have an effective meeting. And having an effective meeting is all about making it easy for people to attend the meeting, to read your agenda, to participate, to have a response or a decision after the meetings. So when in doubt, think, I should delete every second paragraph. Okay, so we are going to, I'm sorry, my computer or something is glitchy today, but I am going to, so what is I want to understand from you, what's the one thing you would want to do to make it easy in the next meeting? Can I give you a few options? But I'd love to hear from you. There's an option called something else, so we'd love to hear from you. Now, the thing about making it easy to remember is that it's not about just reducing words, although that's a very easy way to make things easy. Sometimes you're better off with longer explanations, but you can design for easy navigation. You might have a very long pre-read, and you might arrange or you might highlight certain things to get people's attention, because the way that people actually read something is they skim. They don't read everything that's in your... So you want to, make it such that it's easy. The second way you could make something easy, you have an agenda. There's something called a primacy effect, which is if you have a short list, people are more likely to remember the first thing in the list. If you have a long list, people are more likely to remember the last thing in the list. So you might want to structure your meeting agenda to see what's your most important item. That's something you could do. You could make, defaults are often the pre-arranged alternative is often very, very powerful. So you could think about, your default meeting time and keep it. You could also think about a default agenda template, so people don't have to spend their time every time getting accustomed to a new agenda template. You could also have a default place. It really bugs me when people send the agenda, they send the calendar invite, great. And then 2 days later, they send the agenda in a separate email. And then 3 days later, or literally 12 hours before the meeting, they send a pre-read in a third email. And now I not only have to go and find out where the meeting is, but I have to go and find out the agenda in a separate email. I have to go and find out. So, one place would be make the calendar invite your default for anything related to the meeting, including we will be having cookies, who has, allergies, let us know. Reminders, people think reminders are not very useful. They're actually extremely useful. And what's really useful is to do a concrete reminder, not just a reminder, hey, we're having a meeting, but actually remind them with the date, the time, and the place of the meeting, and maybe, 2 lines on the agenda of the meeting, because it helps people concretely visualize where the meeting is going to be. Or maybe you have some other ideas about how to make it easy. And I see like a lot of people actually have other ideas about how to make it easy. So maybe, Tina, we can run some transient thoughts on this one. I'm not trusting my computer to do something, so I'm not sure if you can if you can do it as the co-pilot. What are some of the other things that we actually want to? Okay, let's try it. What are some of the other things that we actually want to do to make the meeting easy? All those of you who type something else, think about navigation, simplification, chunking things up, shortening things, define success for the meeting. Yeah, I mean, and you could do that like in 2 words, right? You stream alive, thanks. If you do one thing, exactly, that's it. That's all we'll do. Stick to the timeline that you actually communicated. So these are all ways that, you want to think about reducing friction. Okay, the elephant and the rider can't walk on a potholed road. They'll always be slipping and sliding. So you want to say, how can I make this road as simple as possible for the meeting? Define expected outcomes, and I would even make that stronger to say, make it one outcome. I think Tanuj said that, make it like one thing you want from the meeting, right? Everything else is secondary. It's a bonus if we get that. It's just that one thing that you actually want from the meeting. No phones. You could have a simple one, exactly. No phones rule for the meeting. Okay. I'm gonna try and see if we can get to the next.
I can help you there if you'd like.
Yeah. Oh,
Whoops.
Okay, this is what happens. Your laptop doesn't work, you have a co-pilot. That's a good thing to have. Otherwise, I would really be struggling with this. Okay, so that's really about the first insight about the elephant, which is you want to make things easy. You want to use reminders, but remember date, place, time. You want to sort of make things simple. Remember, delete every other paragraph in your agenda or your pre-read. People will still respond. You want to chunk things up. So if you have 7 things on your agenda, maybe you want to categorize them as 3 sort of categories of things that you want to discuss. And even the order of things on your agenda is important. Okay, so let's do the so that's the first insight. The second one, and this is, the most beautiful spot in the world. Where in the world would you like to be if it weren't like 50 degrees? I think I would like to be gazing at the Taj Mahal. The second thing is you make it attractive. Okay, you make it enjoyable and you make it attractive. Okay, so we really underestimate this because I think we all think of meetings. There are very few of us who actually think about meetings as, oh my God, I wish I had gone for more meetings. Okay, most of us is kind of like, yeah, meetings are something I should do, but I really don't want to. They're a way to like do the next thing that I want to do. So here are a few things. If you infuse enjoyment into a meeting, it turns out that your meeting can actually be more productive. So Eilert Fishbach has this amazing book called Get It Done. I use a lot of examples from this book and I just love everything she says. She studied goals and motivation for a long time. And she has this amazing study where she talks about where gym goers, this is for many of us the least favorite thing to do. So what gym goers are asked to do is one set is asked to pick the exercise that they think is the best thing to do. Okay, if you're trying to say build, upper body strength, what's the best exercise? The other ones are just asked to lift or to adopt an exercise that they would most enjoy doing. Okay, I love that pull-up bar. I don't think I get anything done by doing that, but like I'm just going to do that, right? What they find is that the group that's asked to do the thing that they enjoy doing also lift 50% more reps. Okay, so it turns out by doing that silly pull-up bar, instead of doing like, that barbell lift, which I hate, I actually might get more reps. I might actually be more productive. So we often think of pleasure or enjoyment as either or. But actually, in this case, it can help your meetings to be more productive. And whenever in doubt, you want to think about, what's called temptation bundling, which is what Katie Milkman and she's another amazing behavioral scientist, and they do, which is what they do is, again, getting people to the gym is like not a very pleasant task, but something we all want to do. Remember what I showed you, how to live a healthy life, exercise 1 hour every day. So what they do is that they give people an audiobook with the Hunger Games. In this case, or any other audiobook people really wanted to listen to, with one catch. You can only listen to it when you're at the gym. Okay, when you finish, you give it to the person, it gets locked up. The next time you come, you can listen to the audiobook again, right? But it's something you really want. So if, like me, I'm not that interested in Hunger Games, it'd probably be or something like that. But that's the catch. I can only listen to it at the gym. What they find is that group actually comes to the gym 50% more often and exercises much more, stays longer, and they find that this is more effective. So when in doubt, you want to when you want to get people to sort of come for a meeting, you want to see what can I bundle with this, what can I do. If you're the parent of a high schooler who's struggling to get your kid to learn math, what they found is getting kids to listen to music, eat their favorite snack, sit in a beanbag while doing math, they persist longer on math problems, and they're more, they enjoy the whole process more. So we often think a meeting has to be, and in fact, actually Lux asked me, he said, do you want me to book like a corporate space for you? And my home, as you can see, and my laptop is not that functional, or maybe you can't see, but it's not that functional. But I said, actually, you know what, I'd rather prefer to do this at home because I'm more relaxed that way. And so in some sense, this might make for a better meeting. And that's the big advantage, I think, of virtual meetings. And we should play that up instead of playing that down and sort of asking people, oh, like just appear very corporate in the meetings, because the more people can relax and infuse pleasure into the meetings. I was talking to someone and he said, oh, that's why I love those cookies that they give us at the meetings and the, the M&Ms or whatever, even though we could all buy them ourselves, to be honest. And sometimes the cookies themselves are not that great, right? But it's just the prospect of some nice, appetizing food which is a temptation at the meeting. So the key question to ask yourself is, how can I infuse pleasure in the meetings? Another aspect of making it attractive, of course, is rewards. Okay, we all love rewards. We are never immune to rewards. So how can we have more rewards? A couple of points with rewards is that we want to, you can go on mute now in case you've forgotten to, because we don't need people to shout at anymore. Well, maybe we will, but not right now. The key thing with rewards is a few things. One is that the reward has to be given as close to the behavior as possible. If you're going to give people a reward for attending like 17 meetings in a row, they're really not, it's not going to help. The second thing with the reward is, we love uncertain rewards. So if you're thinking of giving a meeting the same reward, $1 or whatever the equivalent at every meeting for being the first person to ask a question, that's really not going to help after the second or third time. And the third thing with rewards is we love lotteries. Okay, so instead of giving everyone, say, $5, if you were to put that into a lottery, say everybody pools in or whatever, we'll give one person out of 100, $500. That's way more attractive to everyone, including the people who don't win. And the reason for that is that we really focus on the size of the prize, and we focus much less on the probabilities. Okay, so our elephant self is very taken up with the size of the prize. Oh my God, what am I going to do with like $1,000? And we don't really appreciate the fact that as the jackpot gets bigger and bigger, our probability of winning it becomes smaller and smaller. And maybe I should have just settled for the $5 instead. So a great way to infuse excitement and uncertainty in a meeting is really to think about rewards, but to think about rewards in the form of the lottery. But what you also want to do is that you, Lux, can you get to the next slide? Oops. What you don't want to do, and I'll talk about it, we'll see the slide when it goes. You don't want to have what is called the Hanoi Rat Massacre. Okay, I don't know whether people are familiar with the Hanoi Rat Massacre. So in the early 1900s, the French had a problem in Vietnam in that there were a lot of rats, okay, and running around in the sewers of Vietnam, spreading disease. So they gave a reward, and at that point, it was quite a high reward of 1 cent. And that reward was really for to kill rats. And the proof of that reward was you have to get the tail of the rat, okay? And in hindsight, this all seems so obvious. So suddenly you have a whole lot of tailless rats running around in Hanoi, and in fact, more rats than ever, because what people did is that they gave the tail, they got their 1 cent, they were like, great, and they were actually releasing the rats into the sewer to breed, and getting even more rats, cutting off their tails and giving them. So actually, instead of what the French government wanted was to have fewer rats, what really ended up happening was more rats, but tailless rats. So be careful what you're trying to reward, because people will respond to that more than they'll respond to anything else. I don't know whether you can get to the next slide. Okay. What is your idea to make meetings more attractive? Just type it in. Let's see what your ideas are. Be creative. What is your idea to make meetings more enjoyable and more attractive? Have them outside. That's a great idea. In good weather, actually, there's no reason at all to have meetings inside a closed room. Donuts, always a brilliant idea. Okay. Interactive games, yes. Samosas, yeah. Samosas is, maybe, people get entered into, this sounds wacky, but it's not. And there's a way that you can do it. And you can say, well, I'm going to make sure everyone's relaxed, and you get entered, even better than foot massages for everyone, you get entered into a lottery to have an amazing, glorious foot massage. Games and food for sure. Serendipity, that's a great one from Jesse, I think, because remember I told you rewards have to be uncertain in order to maximize the benefits of the reward, right? So these little moments of serendipity, little things that you can point to, places that you do. So Gwyn mentioned, I think, outdoors, Peter's mentioning due to the local pub. Think about creative places. It doesn't have to be the same meeting room that you want to do it. Part of serendipity, part of uncertain rewards is a surprise speaker or a surprise guest. offsite meeting in the Swiss Alps. Peter, I wish all our meetings would be standing meetings. That's a great one because, and in fact, if people are sitting down right now, if I can't arrange my screen, if I were to stand up, you'd probably see some weird body part. So I'm not going to do that. But if people want to stand up, you want to move around, you want to go get a snack, there's nothing that says in this meeting you have to sit down and take very detailed notes. We'll send things out after the meeting. We want you to just be thinking about stuff. You're not going to miss anything, any like precious insight from me. So feel free to get your samosa or get your chocolate. These little moments of, and this is perfect, Gwyn, because I'm going to talk about social interactions right after this. Put down a time on how long someone can speak for. Maybe Peter, that's a sign to me to get on to the next one. Okay, so in the spirit of doing this, we said we'll run a lottery. Like, we will actually run the lottery. The prize is very exciting. It is a copy of my new book, Marketplace Dignity, and the winner is Grace. So I think that's great. Thank you. This is for, everyone. But I have another. Remember, we said, there's Lux of the books. It's the book we just wrote. It's a fun book, lots of examples on dignity in the marketplace. So hope you enjoy that, Grace. But remember, someone said, let's have a little surprise. So the second surprise is we're going to have a second winner. Okay, so let's see if we can do that. I don't know if we can make sound effects here. Maria. Oh, great, Maria. So you get a second copy of the book. So, you do stuff like this, which Stream Alive has a few of these tools, which I really love, because when in doubt, run a lottery, everybody likes it. It's fun to get something, and so on. So that's the second sort of idea, which is to make things attractive. The third idea is, how do you make meetings are social in nature? The reason we're meeting is not to talk to ourselves, although I believe there's a t-shirt that says I'm in a meeting with myself. But most meetings, we really do want to get around and talk to other human beings. So really, how do we make things social? One of the things that we do know, and this again comes from Eilet's amazing book, is that we perform differently in the presence of others. So rats are much more likely actually to, and not just we, animals, rats are much more likely to run faster in the maze if some other rat is watching them. Okay, this is a fundamental thing that we do. Players are much more likely to estimate their impact in the game if they have other people watching them. So having other people watching us, having other people participate with us changes our behavior. Okay, we are also sensitive to information about what other people are thinking. So in the study with Saudi men, it turns out that, it turned out at the time of doing the study that you needed a man's permission. Women needed a man's permission to work out of the home. Now, it turned out most men privately had the belief that they were open to their wives working outside the home, but they thought other men would disapprove. When they were given information, and this kind of term is called pluralistic ignorance, when they were given information that other men are also, likely to approve of this, then we saw an immediate jump in the number of women who started working out of home, i.e. their husbands had given permission. So one simple thing often is people don't know what other people are thinking, and you might want to say, X people are attending the meeting, or Y people think this is a good idea to attend the meeting, etc., right? So that's something to actually think about, which is how can you use other people and other people's beliefs to get people to attend your meeting or to get people to participate in the meeting. A third point is, what networks are you going to use to actually spread information about your meeting? So very often we think, I'm going to send this meeting out as an email, and then I'm going to get the leader of the organization to actually tell everyone how important it is. And what they find, this is a completely different study done by Abhijit Banerjee, who won the Nobel Prize in Economics. This was done on immunization, is where they were trying to spread information about an immunization camp. So instead of telling the village leaders to show up or to tell people to show up, they found what they, and later on they said was a little uncharitable, they called gossips. But these are people, this in an organization, right? These are people in the organization who know what is happening, who know everything good or bad that's happening in the organization. They're not necessarily the most powerful in terms of titles or where they are in the hierarchy. They're somehow networked with everyone. So similarly, in this village, in any community, you find these sort of so-called gossips or ambassadors. And what they did was they seeded the information with these people. And in another group of villages, they seeded it with like the typical role authorities, the headman, etc. And what they find is that when you seed it with these so-called gossips, the information spreads faster, people are more likely to go for this immunization camp. So one key thing to think about your meeting, if you want to get the people into the meeting, is how have you seeded information about the meeting? Where are you creating buzz about your meeting? Is it like a standard poster, a standard email, or have you bothered to figure out who are some key points in the network that need to know about this meeting so they can see the information? One more point about a meeting and social interactions is that, and this was asked, this was like one of the concerns I think that was raised, which is how do I get someone from not hogging the meeting space, right? Big problem. You ask a question, or during the meeting only one person responds, and that person keeps responding, and then everyone else keeps quiet, and that's frustrating for you as a meeting planner. Well, there are many reasons this happens. One of the reasons, ironically, this happens is because we actually want to meet the goals of that meeting. Okay, we actually want this meeting to be a success, and we end up what is called social loafing. And why is that? When we see that someone else is doing something to advance the goal, we tend to conserve our energy. Okay, so suppose the idea was I'm having this meeting to collect feedback. Okay, and all of us gather around. I'm quite enthusiastic and I'll give my feedback if you ask me to, but I see someone else giving feedback and this person is chatting enthusiastically. I switch off because, I might switch off for various reasons, but one of those, ironically, is because I think, well, they want feedback. This person is giving them feedback. I don't need to do anything, and so I switch off. And so that's why I think tools like the talking tiles or the transient thoughts, getting everyone to put in their feedback at the same time, is often a good way. If you're running an in-person meeting, getting everyone to write it on paper and then going around the room and getting everyone's feedback is a good way to avoid this idea of social loafing. Because ironically, when people see that the group goal is being met, they are more likely to loaf and to say, well, I don't need to exert energy to make this group goal go. So think about, how to use social proof, as it's called, how to use social networks, and how to get everyone involved, how to avoid this idea of social loafing in a meeting. Okay. So in the spirit of that, and knowing that meetings are essentially a gathering of in the spirit of doing this, okay, just want to know in two words, like one or two words, what sort of communities, are, sorry, Manisha, your question came up. We will discuss that at length. But really, what sort of tribes and communities are you a part of? Because if you think about meetings, it's a certain frame, but really meetings are about community. They're about people getting together. So what are the other interesting tribes or communities that you really are a part of? Can you put that in one or two words? Pilates Club, okay, Tina. Well, you don't need this talk then. Alma mater, think about like why you are a part of this alma mater, why you would go for any reunions that your alma mater has. You like the people, maybe it's fun, there's somebody new who shows up, right? In terms of, it's an attractive thing to do. Maybe there's some reward that's part of your alma mater. Parenthood, the shared sort of struggles, online communities of creators, ex-colleagues. That's interesting because you don't actually need to be in touch with ex-colleagues, right? That's very specific. New Jersey soccer and beer 48 plus. I hope that's 48 plus drinks, not 48 plus age group, but enthusiasts, yeah. So I think what's interesting with these tribes and communities, marketing groups, is to think about, and I'll leave you to do that reflection. Why is this so interesting for me? Why do I end up being part of these? Remember, these are volunteer groups. You're actually doing this volunteer radio station. Ex-colleagues who enjoy conspiracy theory. That's a very specific definition, and I would like to be part of that, Manish. Is to think what makes this enjoyable? What about the social interaction makes this enjoyable? And can you take some of that to your next meeting? Okay. Okay. The fourth out of my fifth insight, I have five things for you. The fourth one is to make it timely. Okay. Many of you know today is Juneteenth, which is Black Independence Day. It's a day to celebrate progress. It's a day to remind ourselves of how much more there is to be done. Many of you may not know that June 20th is alternatively the 172nd day of the year, or it is actually in the Western Hemisphere, the start of summer. So yes, the summer solstice. And the point about this is June 20th is a date like any other date, unless I imbue it with some significance or make it a landmark. June 20th is also World Productivity Day. So it's a great day to start organizing better meetings in line with behavioral science principles. What Katie Milkman and her colleagues find is that when you reframe a date as a fresh start, people are more likely to start a new habit, to do something. So if you want to have your meeting, don't just have it on the the third Wednesday of June, have it on Juneteenth. If you want to start an innovation set of meetings, tomorrow is a great day to do that, right? The start of summer, the start of like thinking broadly, and have your meeting outside maybe to reinforce that. So think about sort of this fresh start effect, that there are certain days, New Year's days, birthdays, beginning of employment, that we really want to do something, to start something new. And how can you leverage those days to really do that? Timing is everything. The second thing that often happens in a meeting, or with anything actually in life, is that we don't actually start. We have status quo bias. We don't start some stuff. It sounds like I have to do these 10 things. Oh God, I can't even get started. Same thing with meetings, right? Or with anything. One easy way to do that is to endow yourself with some progress. Okay, so imagine that and this is what happens with coffee cups. So what these researchers did is that they gave people, coffee card with 10, the regular ones. So you have to get, in this case, say 9 holes punched, then you get the 10th one absolutely free. What they actually did in one case was that they gave people, and they pre-punched two of those holes, and they made it such that you still. So instead of 9, it became 11 of these. They made it such that you still had to buy 9 more coffees and get the 10th one free, but you feel you've made some progress because I've punched in the first 2 holes for you. And as you might think, those who had that progress endowed were more likely to make a start to get to the coffees, okay, and to get to their free coffees. We love the illusion of progress, which is why we like pre-filled forms. So one easy thing to do, which I was thinking about, is how you have an agenda. If you could get the first and second part of your agenda already ticked off in the first couple of minutes maybe, or even do it before the meeting and say, by the way, we've already done agenda item 1 and 2. Everyone feels a little more energized because they're like, oof, we've already made progress. That's a great thing. So we love making goal progress. Goal progress motivates us. Another interesting point is that when we are making progress till we're at the middle point, it's good to look back. Okay, so the first half of the meeting, look how much ground we covered, look where we were before this meeting. When we are at the midpoint, we are more motivated by looking forward and seeing the end point. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. The third, which is the Hanukkah candle that you can see, is middles are always going to suck. There is nothing you can do about it. That's the way the world is. If you ask people during Hanukkah, a lot of people light the first 2 candles and then they light the last 2 candles and they forget about lighting the middle candles. They also judge people more harshly for not lighting the first 2 and the last 2, and don't really judge people for lighting the middle ones. The middle is the most dangerous part of anything you will do, whether it is making a resolution, running a meeting, etc. This is just what it is. Lean into it. Okay, middles, there's going to be a point in your meeting the middle of the meeting, it's just going to suck. Nobody wants to, there seems to be a mess. What you need to plan for, rather than try and make every part of the meeting more effective, is plan for the end. And again, one of your questions was, how can I get everyone to make a decision? Don't worry about if no decisions are happening in the middle of your meeting. Plan for the end, plan for the last 10 minutes of your meeting, because as people, remember, as I said, once people have reached the midpoint, they're looking towards the end. The last 10 minutes of your meeting are quite, are the ones that are most interesting, and the ones where people will say, okay, let's make a decision, because now we spent 1 hour, we want to make the decision. So you need to be ready for that. Mostly what happens is we don't pay attention to this, and they're like, oh, we've only got 5 minutes more. Okay, let's just wrap this up and get on to the next one. So in fact, when you're planning your meeting, plan backwards. Don't plan don't plan every minute. Plan the last 10 minutes, plan the important parts, and get everyone on board, because this gold gradient effect is going to kick in. People like to end well. And by the way, that's what they remember about a meeting, okay? Any experience, I remember the peak of the experience and I remember the end of the experience. So you want to think about time as a really important construct in behavioral science. How can I use fresh starts, temporal, landmarks as they're called, to set the right meeting date and time? How do I endow people with goal progress to get them started? How do I sort of get out of this dangerous middle, or at least acknowledge it? And how do I make sure that the last part, when people, rats run faster when they see, I'm sorry, so much of this lunchtime conversation is about rats, but whatever. Rats run faster when they see the end of the maze. How do I get the last 10 minutes of my meeting to be the most productive part of the meeting that I've actually planned? I am going to ask you, let's just riff a little bit on time and have some fun here. And hopefully people have eaten their samosas and their donuts so they can write it. What movie, song, or book can you remember that has the theme of time? Interstellar. Yep. Time by Pink Floyd. Oh, two people said that. Night Circus, huh? About Time, yes. Time Traveler's Wife. Oh my God, two people actually said that. Inception. That's a brilliant movie about time. Tenet. Okay, I'm seeing this is just a really good way. I think just seeing so many of these styles come in. This is, time is on my side. Um, keep going. I think what I'm seeing, Thief of Time, Terry Pratchett, amazing. What you can see here is so much of our life in pop culture, etc., is about time. Time is so important. We think about time, but we think about time in terms of certain landmarks, time after time. We don't think about the 172nd day of the year, okay? So think about time very specifically, but not time as in here's what I'm going to do in the 40th and 41st minute, but chunking up the beginning, the middle, and the end of it. Okay. So we come to the fifth insight, which is the final one, I promise you. And here I'm going to, give you a little surprise, which is that there is no final insight. There were only 4 insights. But this is my favorite story, comes from the idea that when we think about a solution, we're always thinking about adding. I would have liked to have done insight number 6 and 7 and 8. My agenda item must have 8, 9, 10. Maybe you're better off deleting something, but we never think of subtraction as a solution. And here's what Lady Claude's, he has a great book called Subtract. They actually do this with people in a lab. That's an action figure. It's just that they can't reproduce it for copyright reasons. You can see that the action figure, there's a little roof, and you can see the little Lego brick that's holding up that roof. And the challenge to people is, how do you make this roof more stable? Okay. And actually the interesting part is people had to buy Lego bricks, in order to, if they wanted to buy Lego bricks. What they find overwhelmingly is people buy bricks. The least they buy is maybe 1 brick. Most people don't think about the simple solution, which is if I removed that Lego brick that's standing on the corner and I put this roof down, it would immediately become a stable structure. We are not conditioned to think of subtraction as a solution. So in that, with that story in mind, I thought about 5 insights, decided to only leave it to 4. That's where we're going to actually finish off. So think about what you can subtract. Remember, delete every second paragraph, delete a few agenda items. Think about what you can actually subtract in your next meeting. And I am just going to, before we get to the 3 kind of freebie takeaways at the end of this very quickly, I think we have a couple of minutes for some questions. So I don't know, Lux, if you want to take some of
Yeah.
those questions and we can discuss that.
So Neela, if you don't mind, I'll just screen share and pull up questions
Okay,
and
so
just
do I
give
have to
some
stop
context.
sharing?
You can just stop sharing for a
Okay.
couple of seconds. Just in the interest of time, because someone rightly mentioned sticking to time is an important one. So we'll probably just have about 3 or 4 minutes for questions to give
Okay.
you
So
time
we'll
to,
do quick 1 or 2 word answers.
right? And it's going to be a little challenging for you to do that because here goes. We had all these questions that came up from people in the registration form. So I'm going to let you eyeball it and magically summarize everything into one
Okay.
or two things. And of course, we can give after work, afterwards you can send material and stuff to
Okay. So
people as well.
let me see if I can do this in like I don't know, 4 minutes. Our
And
meetings.
before you jump in, I'll just add two more things to you very quickly. This is kind of what people had mentioned in the poll in
Correct.
terms of their biggest meeting challenges. I think you had a look at that, and I think you
Yeah.
covered a lot of that.
Yes, so I hope you just saw that, you get everyone to participate, make it social, make a decision, focus on the last 10 minutes of the meeting, think about simple. Are meetings ever really productive? No. Okay, so sometimes you just have to accept, but meetings are productive in one way, you get to meet other people. And don't underestimate the power of like casual interactions. Here's a quick one. If you want to be really happy, go talk to strangers. Okay, go make small talk with strangers. People think they don't like it. This is by a Chicago researcher. People think they're not going to like it. People think other people find them intrusive. They're actually happier when that happens. So maybe meetings are productive because all you do is you meet people and you have casual interactions with them. Online interactions, we've talked a lot. Get as many people as possible to be authentic and creative and avoid games. Yes, you want to give people, one way to do that is to co-create in advance, ask people what they'd like to do. So you get a sense, and also in co-creation, you have the IKEA effect. I love something that I have had an input into. I'm more likely to attend this meeting. I love wobbly furniture that I have had a hand in sort of making myself, rather than someone telling me this is the game I should participate in. Definitely affected by culture, so very important to know that. And I think the previous question answers that. I think physical movement makes things attractive, it's enjoyable. How do you nudge an entire organization into meetings? I don't know whether you can, but you can do it little by little. How can I infuse pleasure in meetings? Yes, I'm glad that, oops, sorry, I didn't do that. Someone else has done that. And let me see let me go from down in the spirit of being, why do I hate meetings so much? Is something wrong with you? Nothing is wrong with you. I think for you, the person who said that, try and find the fun in the meeting. Okay, it's like, I know it's a hard ask, and maybe that's the fun, trying to find the fun in a meeting. Maybe you focus on, I just want to talk to this one person, or maybe I'm just going to rate the cookies at every meeting, do something that's fun to enjoy the meeting. Maybe I'll do one more, how to successfully recruit past participants for future meetings. One of the ways that, I talked about this a little bit, is the way that we make a prediction about a future event is how the event ends. Okay, we don't remember a lot about the event. We really remember the peak of the event and how the event ends. So the peak could be like a game that people really had an input into and they wanted to play, not a game you're forcing on them. But hey, that was a fun thing, that lottery. The end is how you end the meeting. So other ones, can I use theater games? Please do, and tell us about it and add that to the list of things that you can do. So I think how do I best engage the introverts? Tools like Streamalive are actually really great because then people don't have to talk. They can just type in things and they're often more likely to do that. With that, I am going to just stop this screen sharing.
Very quickly, Neela, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Oops, back to you. Okay.
Oh,
I think there's one more screen out here, so I'll just pull that up as well,
do you want me to stop share?
if you don't mind.
Oh,
So,
yes.
all right.
Oh yeah, that's a good way. Like people can put things in chat and then you can pull them up at the end of the meeting. That's a good way for people to just uh, not sort of avoid this thing about the I'm not paying attention to you because I have to remember my question when I ask it. You can ask people to put questions in the meeting. So I talked about social loafing, the idea that you don't want to participate because you feel the group's goals are getting met when someone else participates, right? So exciting, most unexpected application. I don't know. You've put me on the spot right now, so I can't answer this. But if I think about it and if I can send you a written response, I think better. This is also about understanding understanding people's thinking styles, right? So I will come back to you on that question. I will leave you with three freebies for those of you who don't know it. Some of you might. So obviously, understanding this framework wasn't mine. I have to give full props to the behavioral insights team who developed this framework. You want to make things easy, attractive, social, and timely, whether it is going to exercise, whether it is learning something, whether it is holding meetings. So this is a framework that applies for many things. And you also want to address the elephant in the room, design meetings for the elephant. And number one is, if you're interested, you can go to the East side. We'll put this in the follow-up email. You can go to the Behavioral Insight side. They have a wonderful handbook with lots of examples of how to apply the East framework. So you can look at that. If you're the sort to not look at large handbooks and you say, the behavioral science thing is kind of interesting, I want to read more, this is an excellent free, totally free, no paywall online website/magazine where you really have the best behavioral scientists writing articles about things like how to make a more peaceful world, but also about 20 books you can read over the summer, various things. So I love Behavioral Scientist. It's a nonprofit. If you want to, you can contribute, but you don't have to. Just read it. Just pick up an article and read it at will and try and apply it for your meeting. And for those of you who are like, remember I talked about making it social? I'm also part of this completely volunteer, completely free group called Bessie, which is about promoting applied behavioral science. It's behavioral science and you. And like those cows who have wings, we hope to, combine impossible things. So it would be a great place. You can join and you can attend meetings in person. There are talks, there are interest groups, all sorts of fun stuff to do. So hopefully you took a few things from this meeting. It wasn't a complete waste of time, even though you'd rather be in Peru. And thank you. And we end 2 minutes early, which is always a
I
delight.
know. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Neela. I know I say this on behalf of everybody else who's attended this session. This was fantastic. I mean, I know you can speak about this subject for till the flying cows come home, so to speak. But this was a beautiful introduction, and we'll be sharing some of these resources afterwards with people as well. And if you don't mind sharing your screen one last time, as we just have people leaving, and allow me to take control of that. I just have a request for everyone as they leave this beautiful session. Just give Neela a little digital giveaway. It's a feature called emojis everywhere. Just type in an emoji in the chat that reflects what you thought of today's session, please. So Subrat, amazing session. Capture that in an emoji before you leave. Would love to give her this little emoji cloud.
So it's not a feed, it's just a fun, like you have to do nice things, therefore. He already primed you to say nice things, not to give like actual, oh God, this was terrible. We should have had it outdoors, no slides. Neela, I don't know what she was saying, but yes. So what would be fun is try some of this stuff out. I hope we can share this back somewhere in some place as to what works in meetings. And I hope we continue to make meetings more productive. And the next one, I promise you, we'll find the technology to do it outdoors.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
We will mint this into an NFT and sell it online and all become crypto millionaires.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye.